Hi, this is Dee Backman-Hoyle from Inspired Workforce Performers. At Inspired Workforce Performers, we help managers to understand the human factor in managing, and we call this Humanaging. But we also help managers to understand what it takes to learn the practical management techniques. And these practical management techniques help managers to build great working relationships with their staff. And if they've got a great working relationship with their staff, they're more likely to be able to communicate the objectives and goals that collectively they need to achieve together. Have you ever worked for a boss that just didn't care about you or didn't want to understand you as a whole person? Maybe you were treated like a piece of plant and equipment that was scheduled and manipulated as required. Maybe you didn't even get a maintenance plan to go with that. Well, I do. You see, I was working in a place for about 8 years when I received a phone call, and it was one of those phone calls that no one ever wants to get. It was a phone call informing me that my husband had been killed in very tragic circumstances. As you can imagine, all my friends rallied around me, my work colleagues, and they were able to demonstrate their love and concern and care for me. Well, that was a complete opposite to my boss. My boss was just totally insensitive to what had just taken place. You know, the first thing that he did was inform me of what the policies and procedures are for the bereavement. He even had the cheek to stare down at his watch and asked me if I wanted to take my bereavement leave starting right there and then. Well, you know, I was in shock. And fortunately I was in shock because it didn't quite get through to me how horrible the situation was right there and then. The main thing that was on my mind was, what was I going to be telling my 4-year-old daughter? Simply her dad was never going to come home again. I took some time off work and eventually decided that I needed to share a really important message. And that really important message was to let managers know that the people that they manage, their staff, are human beings. And they're very, very important messages, because if you can understand what makes your staff tick, if you can understand what's important to each staff member, you'll understand what it's going to take to get them to perform for you. You need to understand what's real and what's important for your staff, and as importantly, you need to learn the skill of living in action, care, respect, and building trust with your staff. I made it my mission to study the subject of managing staff. And at this point, I'd already had experience of being a manager of other people as well. So off I went. I changed careers, I changed jobs. I went off and got 2 postgraduate qualifications, one in organisational dynamics and the other in enterprise and innovation. And the formal study gave me an in-depth understanding of capabilities required for today's contemporary manager. I immersed myself in observation, and I did this by spending a load of time consulting within organisations from various industry backgrounds, because I wanted to test that the management capabilities that I knew were critical translated across a whole pile of different demographics. I also knew that what I needed to present to managers was going to be much more than a lecture on goodwill and perceived soft skills training. I knew managers needed to know that the numbers added up for them. There was a return on investment for them applying management capabilities that required them to change the way they were currently doing something to a new way of behaving as a manager with their staff. The results I've achieved are that I've helped many managers gain clarity about what's the most critical aspects of managing for them in the context of their role and their relationship with their staff. You know, only last week one manager told me that he'd learnt more in an hour with me about himself and about what it's going to take to manage his staff than he'd learnt in 3 years in the job. I've helped some really hardened managers to understand that allowing others to get to know them, that living in their authentic selves, understanding that their personality can actually be a great thing for other people to understand and learn more about, and that it's in fact a really smart business decision and it's not the risk that they thought it might have been, exposing themselves as an authentic leader. I've seen it happen many times before, and in fact I know for a fact that old dogs can learn new tricks. You see, there just isn't any place left for the crusty old demon managers of old that think that scare tactics and fear get you results, and that intimidation and perhaps even bullying works, and that not trusting people, especially adults, and treating staff with contempt has a place in today's modern business. Years ago, people put up with that because they didn't think they had a choice. Today they do, and there is. And you know, from a very early age, we teach our children self-respect, and those children are entering workplaces thinking respect will be part of the psychological contract that they make with the company. You know, after all, wasn't that espoused in the recruitment activities and possibly advertised as part of the deal? You see, the difference with our approach is that we don't start with teaching managers how to manage other people. We start with teaching managers how to better manage themselves. We believe the cornerstone in today's great management style is great self-management and self-awareness, being able to hold up a mirror and see themselves through the eyes and the lens of the staff that they manage, being able to truly understand the experience and the impact that they have on other people, building up the emotional courage that it's going to take and the tenacity to change the things that are not currently working for them with managing other people. One of the most common mistakes that learning and development parts of an organisation make is putting a whole group of managers into one management training program with the same content to be delivered to all. It sort of makes sense from an efficiencies point of view, but here's the catch. Managers are individuals also, most of them travelling their own unique management pathway. Seldom do you find managers in identical places on their management journey together. And that in itself creates some challenges, because critical to getting good management skills being built is understanding the drives and the motives of each individual manager and understanding that that's unique for them. If you don't understand that there is a motive for every manager, and also if you don't understand where they're going to have the opportunity to apply new skills to build up proficiency in the new skills, you leave the manager with an optional view rather than mandatory required to apply these new skills. And another dilemma that's facing management training is taking people out of their natural workplace environment and not being able to contextualise the content of what you're showing with them to not only the motive and the opportunity, but purely being able to contextualise it. Managers have got to be enticed to create new thinking. You're wasting your time and you're wasting your dollars getting managers to consume vast amount of management theory without them thinking about motive, opportunity within the context. What we're inviting you to do is to let us show you what's possible when it comes to converting your average managers into good managers and your good managers into great managers. Get in contact with us so we can send you our free management capabilities diagnostic, or just tell us to come and see you in person. We'd love to get to know more about you and your managers.